Randy Witt. Thank you, Time Warner. Appreciate it. Thank you, Randy. You can't hug him because he's got a cold. Someone told me Bill Allen is here. Billy from Philadelphia is right. Bill Allen from the LA County Economic Development Corporation, a great talent. I just want to know, I did this last time. How many people got their tap card? Everybody have tap? Man, this is impressive. This is good. It's a step in the right direction. George Reyes, intern in my office, president of student body, gets to introduce the mayor of Los Angeles. Come on up, my friend.
Good evening, everyone. My name is George Reyes, and I serve as the Associated Students President. I'm very grateful to be here today representing the voice of close to 42,000 students here at Cal State Northridge. And especially for this issue because I myself don't own a vehicle, and I've had to take public transportation to get to CSUN and to a part-time job. So it is my honor to present the next speaker of the night. Mayor Garcetti was raised in the San Fernando Valley. He earned his BA in Political Science and Urban Planning, and MA in International Affairs from Columbia University. Mayor Garcetti is familiar with California State University, Northridge. He participated in a mayoral forum on campus, has held a town hall event at CSUN as part of his Back to Basics tour, and he recently chose CSUN to host his State of the City address last April in our beautiful Valley Performing Arts Center. Here at CSUN, we're very lucky to have Mayor Garcetti as one of our transportation champions. And lucky that these accessibility issues are a priority for our mayor, just like they are for us, Matadors. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Let's give George a round of applause. Come on, make some noise for George. Thank you, George. Thank you, and very good evening to everybody. Thank you so much, President Harrison. Not only was I here for the State of the City address last year, which was such a marvelous place to do it, but we've traveled to Mexico together to work on some of CSUN's expanding international ties. We've been in this very same room with neighborhood council and community leaders to really focus the city back at the basics, and it feels like coming home, not only because this is from my native valley, but because this is such an extraordinary place to bring people together, and I want to thank you for hosting us. Senator Hertzberg, a force of nature, a great friend, somebody who's been a mentor, somebody who's inspired me in public service. I want to thank you for what you have pulled together with Richard Katz. We're joking with Zev and with Mitch here, we probably have a minion together, but thank you for all you have done, both of you, to really look at the way that we can reimagine our city. And this particular village inside of a city, or city really inside a larger city, which is nestled in an even bigger city here today. As was mentioned, I come here from the Valley. I'm the first mayor elected from the Valley in decades, and maybe only the second or third ever. And I grew up in this valley on Woodley Avenue. I grew up in Sherman Oaks and Encino. I had grandparents who lived in Pacoima and in Van Nuys, and cousins in Tarzana. I went to school in North Hollywood. I took the bus every single day, the old RTD. It's amazing when I look back. I was an elementary school student. I took the bus, something I don't think a lot of parents would let their kids do, and crime was higher then than it is now. But my sister and I would board that bus. I would take it every single day. And it was part of that experience of the city that I grew up with, a place that worked, a place where the quality of life was second to none. And, you know, the Valley very much shaped who I am in terms of the values as a person, but it's also shaped my agenda as a mayor. And, you know, my whole back to basics focus, which people said, well, you know, why are we not thinking about the big things? And I said, the big things flow from getting the little things right first. A 40-minute wait at the Department of Water and Power means you can't even get to the big things like what are we going to do to save water or to rebuild our infrastructure. When we have potholes to drive over, we can't aspire to the bigger things we want to do. As I've often said, you can't raise your eyes to the stars until you fix the cracks on the sidewalk. And so 2.5 years into being your mayor, we've been able to refocus this city. And with a great council member who has been just an extraordinary ally, as well as the other council members in this city, but they're not here today, so Mitch Englander gets my praise. We have put this back to basics agenda to work. And I really set to rebuild this city in 3 ways, which comes down to the transportation agenda in a moment. First and foremost, to rebuild its economy. Since I've been mayor, we've seen unemployment fall 45%. We've seen the fastest pace of jobs in 10 years. We've seen over 60,000 businesses register with the city of Los Angeles. But second, we wanted to rebuild people's faith in government itself. That's why people like Mitch have this focus and our passion for trying to pave more streets than we ever have, which we did last year, 2,400 miles worth. We balanced our budget, saw our bond rating go up, put more in our reserve fund than we ever do, because we want people to have faith that we can actually do those things right and give people a rebuilding of their faith in government itself. And then third, I said, what can we do for the long haul in terms of building this city? And that's really building out its infrastructure. We're going to end with transportation, but there's so many pieces of it, whether it's those 2,400 miles of roads, whether it's a record number of housing units being built to address a housing crisis, whether it's an airport that we are completely redoing, including finally bringing public transportation to LAX, which is 40, 50 years in talking in the making about it, or whether it's some of the work that we are doing at the port to fix our aging pipes that are bursting all around us. We put a focus on that. But we also heard loud and clear that our transportation infrastructure needed help. Now, we had an advantage because people like Zev Yaroslavsky and those who came before me on the board, my predecessor as mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, Richard Katz, others put before the voters, and a lot of us campaigned for, the idea that would people actually, 2/3 of people, and that is a very high threshold. 2/3 is like, about a quarter of people wake up against sunshine every day if you poll it. To get to 2/3 is immensely difficult, but we passed it and got Measure R done. But many of us kind of wondered when was the money going to come. And when we began to look at where the money was being spent, it left not just the San Fernando Valley behind, but other parts of the county behind as well. So we can celebrate that in May, on May 20th, we'll bring rail back to the Pacific Ocean for the first time in 50 years since the red car was closed down when the Expo line opens. We can celebrate that in the other valley, the San Gabriel Valley, that just this Saturday we invite you out to Duarte, where we'll see the extension of the foothill line that will take us all the way to Azusa. People know what Azusa stands for, right? Everything from A to Z in the USA. That's what it was named for. And we can look at the other 3 lines that are underway, the Crenshaw Line, Downtown Connector, the extension of Wilshire Subway. But it all asks the question for those of us from the Valley, where's our piece? So today we are coming together to make sure, and I want you to hear from me, you don't just have one great rep in Paul Krikorian, who I appointed to the MTA to be the Valley's voice, but you have 4 votes on that board, because I and 2 other members of the LA City representatives, and probably 5 because you have Sheila Kuehl there too. You have 5 people who should be and will be representing the Valley when it comes to shaping a ballot agenda for November. I set about in my first week as mayor to build this coalition. No mayor of the city of LA had ever begun to meet regularly with the other 87 mayors, or if you really want to be mathematically correct, the other 92 mayors, because the Board of Supervisors are essentially mayors in the unincorporated areas. But every quarter, I've been having those meetings. So every single quarter, I brought my peers together. The latest meeting was yesterday in Long Beach to say, hey, out in the Antelope Valley, do you feel like you haven't been listened to? In the Southeast and Gateway cities, do you feel like you haven't been listened to? Out in the San Gabriel Valley, in the San Fernando Valley, in everywhere in this county, what can we do to say, moving forward, everybody will be at the table? That coalition is working. It's come together on core things that impact the Valley. We came together on film tax credits, a core industry right here, to get the state to expand that. And last year we had record filming for the first time in 4 or 5 years, as $1 billion+ of film and television came back to Los Angeles, mostly in the Valley. Second, on aerospace, we came together to save that industry and to get us aligned to make sure we can protect those jobs. And we started also talking a lot about transportation. And we set forward, thanks to the good work of Supervisor Mike Antonovich, a process for another ballot initiative that said, we won't make these decisions behind closed doors, we're going to do them out in the open. That's what tonight is about. Over 200 meetings later, over 2,700 projects throughout LA County later, we are ready to go to the voters. Almost. We have put together a coalition that is listening and working with the MTA, including leadership of Phil Washington. And we're so blessed to have an incredible CEO and a great deputy CEO who's here tonight, and Stephanie will be speaking later, that have success in getting that job done. In Denver, he did the same thing, and here I know he's going to do it. We started developing core principles. So let me tell you what mine are, say a couple other things, and then wrap up. First of all, a core principle when I said I would help lead this, I would be at the front of this campaign to go back to the ballot 2.5 years ago. I said, first, no more half measures. It's nice to put something on a ballot that says something will get done, but if people don't see it get done, so what? If you put an incomplete amount of money and it never happens, you might as well put no money there at all. Second, No part of the county should be denied its fair share. Tonight, I want you to hear loud and clear, that means the San Fernando Valley. Doesn't mean only the San Fernando Valley, but tonight we're talking about the San Fernando Valley. Third is no excuses, no closed-door decisions, have an open process with this. And we listened. And the San Fernando Valley came together. The Council of Governments, VICA, this group, all of the LA City Council members who we just met with yesterday, to say, what can we do to bring the strongest coalition to get the most dollars without also upsetting the apple cart? And I want to be more blunt about what Zev said. To get a 2/3 vote, nobody can feel that some other place is getting its unfair share. But we have a pretty good, I think, argument to make that here in the San Fernando Valley, we have to stretch to get more dollars, and the calculation has to be fair to us. And I think right now, we still have a little bit more work to do to make sure that happens. And then the projects that we heard were very loud and clear. First here in the San Fernando Valley are the big three. The Sepulveda Pass, this is not in order of any ranking, Sepulveda Pass, the East Valley North-South line for the San Fernando Valley, and improvements to the Orange Line. Let's get the stuff that was already in Measure R done. Let's make sure that we deliver on those. Next, let's figure out ways that we can improve and look to new things. The San Fernando Valley is still a place that is ripe for other BRT lines, bus rapid transit lines. CSUN should not be ignored in that conversation, and you have my support in ensuring that we drive dollars and that we drive lines to here. We also need to make sure that we look at things like the Los Angeles River and the bikeways and the city of San Fernando and make sure that it's not just about the city of LA. We need to make sure also that we have in there connection to Burbank Airport. And I was proud just this week to launch the express bus that will hopefully one day become BRT, that will hopefully one day become rail, that will link the Gold Line all the way over, so that one day you can get from rail from Chatsworth to Claremont and beyond. That will help us connect that airport and make sure it can also connect north-south with the Red Line, as was mentioned as well. These key projects, together with the work that we're doing here in the Valley, ensure that we can look back and say, this was that moment. I don't know what a quadrennial means, but I'm sure it is accurate. But I say it's a once in a, I would say, lifetime opportunity. It's not that we can't go back, but I never will imagine that the stars will be aligned in the way that they are today. To say that it was interesting as we did 14 focus groups and 2 polls in getting ready for this, that people time and time again, when we said, well, do you want this to last for 10 years? It had good support. But then we said, how about 20 years? And the support climbed. How about 30 years? And the support went higher. 40 years, and it went even higher. Now, you think that's counterintuitive. How long are you going to ask for a half cent? But when we asked people why, they said, we don't want to just contribute a little bit and a decade later say, well, the line's kind of a third of the way done or needs improvements. Get the job done. We want to ease congestion. Even if we don't get into that transit, as was mentioned, you know, was it Richard Katz getting out of the way or Zev getting out of the way? I think Zev's riding so he can get out of the way of Richard's car. But we all know, even if a line isn't for us, it's for somebody else that is next to us in that car. And that we can get a combination of both those things to reduce congestion here. My last pledge to you is I will lead this campaign. I've put my heart and soul into this. I've built the political coalition behind this. We've got great leaders ready to be there alongside. Our chair, Mark Ridley Thomas, John Fasano, who will be our next chair, the board members, those folks who do the building, the community groups, elected officials, hundreds of them who have already signed on to being supportive of this. But it's going to come down to all of us, having conversations with our neighbors, having conversations in our workplaces. The most important conversation you can have is the one where you say why it's important to you that we get this job done. And we will deliver. The time is now for a fair formula. The time is now for priority projects. The time is now for no area and the San Fernando Valley specifically not being left behind. And the time is now also for fairness and local return, because a chunk of these dollars comes in local return to cities. And it's my pledge, and we're working, Bob Blumenfield's already introduced a motion on my suggestion to make sure the San Fernando Valley gets its fair share of the LA City local return dollars, because that ensures that you can get your streets paved, your stop signs put in there, your stoplights installed that we need right here in the Valley. We have so much momentum going on in the Valley. We've got great things happening. I put a Valley native on opening up the 405 a little bit early, and we got the job done, Nick Patsouris, and I want to thank him. We opened the Valley West Side Express, which today shaves 20 minutes off your commute from the central part of the San Fernando Valley to UCLA. We're putting the NoHo-Pasadena Express that I mentioned. We're putting tens of millions of dollars into improving the terminus of the Red Line in NoHo. to make sure people can have a pedestrian connection to the Orange Line and more parking. How many of us have been there and the parking is completely filled? We're putting $30 million into Universal as the Harry Potter exhibition opens up, so there'll be less of an impact and we can have people take public transportation. $35 million to improve the Van Nuys Metrolink thing. So it's not that there's nothing going on in the Valley. There's a lot. But it is time to take a lot to our fair share, and count on me to be that champion. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. We really, really appreciate it. Everybody, let's give it up for him again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to bring up City Councilman Mitch Englander. He's a member of the Council of Area Governments, together with Stuart Waldman, who's the, I don't know what your title is, Executive Director, CHIZO of VICA, in terms of the efforts of, chance to come on up. We're going to sit down and start a conversation.